Welcome to the Woven Learning Drone program. In this video, I'm going to walk you through how to assemble, solder, and fly the Woven Learning Drone. This is definitely a build it for yourself style drone. There's some troubleshooting we're going to do, and we're going to enjoy soldering. It's pretty tricky. It's all there on the circuit board. Pretty cool. The way I'm holding it, you see that T shape in the middle? That's the front. And those arms sticking out, those are the arms where the motors are going to go. These are the packages that come with the drone kit. We've got some guards, got some legs, and the motors, and some little rubber grommets that hold the motors nice and snug. Go ahead and open up your package. All three of the packages, those are the legs. The next package is the motors. You're going to notice that there are two different motors. 4 motors total, but there are 2 different motors. 2 have red and blue wires, and 2 have white and black wires. Those little black rings are the rubber grommets. We're going to start by squeezing those black rings into the legs of, or I guess the arms of the drone. You got to kind of wiggle it around. It helps if you flip the drone over and check to make sure it's not sort of hung up. You can kind of see that one's a little bit hung up. Well, maybe you can't see. There. So go around and fix all 4 of the rubber grommets into the arms of the drone. There you can see that one got hung up a little bit, so I just had to finesse it so it creates mostly a ring, mostly a circle. The motor, when you push the motor in, it will help also that ring find its shape. So the motors really are just a pressure fit into this rubber or silicone ring. There's no screws or any attachments like that. These are the legs. They're also made of the silicone circuit board, and they're split in the middle. My thumb's covering it. But basically you slide one part of the leg into the arm and pull it apart. Pull the leg apart. You see here, slide it into the arm, pull it apart, and it kind of just sort of pressure holds on the end. It doesn't push all the way in. It just sort of pressure holds there. You can solder those if you want. I have never soldered them just because these are really lightweight drones and it's not necessary. But you can see there's 4 legs, 1 leg for each of the arms. And you just kind of go around. You'll notice while you're working on this that it's a pretty delicate drone. It's a delicate material. You know, your drones that you buy that are pre-made have this inside the plastic. You just get to see and experience what it's like assembling the drone. There we see our 4 motors, 2 with white and black, 2 with red and blue. And this is because drone motors, 2 are going to spin clockwise and 2 are going to spin counterclockwise. And if you follow my pattern here, there, put that T shape in the front, and the front left arm takes a red and blue. You notice I take the wires and slide it in through that silicone or rubber ring first, and then I'm carefully sort of supporting the ring from underneath and pushing the motor into that rubber ring. Give it a little wiggle, not too much. Careful with those wires. They're super thin. It's easy to pull those wires out or break some part of it. So just make sure you're carefully, but it's still, you know, being careful, you still have to push with some force. That's why you'll see I support it underneath That's my left hand supporting underneath, and my right hand is trying to like get the motor started. I give it a little wiggle, and I'm pushing sort of against my other hand. That way I don't break the arm, but I also don't break the motor. So again, the front left arm takes a red and blue, and the front right takes a white and black. And then we're going to go crisscross. So that means the back right arm will take a red and blue. Sort of makes an X shape or X pattern. So the top left is red and blue, and the bottom right is red and blue. The top right is white and black. And guess what the bottom left is? You guessed right. It's white and black. So sliding the wires in first, I'm supporting the wires, I'm supporting the arm of the drone, and I just wiggle that motor in. And you'll notice that I don't push the motor in below the rubber grommet, just about to the bottom. And I might even adjust that later, pushing it up. So there's all the motors installed into the arms of the drone. Okay, up next we're going to prepare the wires for soldering onto the circuit board. These are the wires that come out the base of the motor. You see I'm peeling just a small part of the plastic, which is an insulator, so I reveal a little bit more of the silver or metal wire. So I just go around, I use my thumbnail, and I just pinch it and then pull it. That's a little long, but it's okay. Just pinch it and pull it. You can use scissors or another tool. These wires are so thin, and that insulation is so thin, that if you have a little bit of fingernails, you can pinch it and pull them off, and you just need a little additional exposed wire to help you solder the wires in place. You'll notice that the wires out of the motor are pretty long. You could potentially cut them short, but I don't like that idea, because what if you have to resolder it, or you need a little bit of additional wire? You'd have to end up replacing the motor entirely. So I like to wrap the extra wire, just about 3 wraps. 1, 2, 3, there's 4 maybe. 3 or 4 wraps, and then I'm trying to wrap it again, but that's too much. So 3 or 4 wraps, and then slide the wire up through the middle of the arm and pull it through so you can make it available for soldering. You see that one's a little short, and so I'm gonna say I'm gonna push it back through, go back around, and give myself a little additional wire so I can make sure there's enough wire for me to solder it onto the board. 3, and then I go up just like that. I left these parts in so you could see that it's okay. Even I have made a bunch of these and I still make mistakes, but just go back, fix your mistake, no big deal. Try and do it again. 3 wraps, push the wire up through that middle gap of the drone arms and have those wires poking out the top. Go ahead and do that for all 4 motors on each of the arms. You can see that I've got all 4 motor wires wrapped around the drone arms and pulled through that middle gap of the drone arm and just kind of sticking up. It's a great opportunity for you to look and see if you have your motors in the correct orientation. So with that T part up front, we've got the blue and red on the left. We've got white and black on the right, in the top right. As my camera focuses, I'm pointing at the positive and negative for each of the motors. So there's for the top right, you see a little plus and then a little negative by those silver pads. Go ahead and pause and look at your own drone. In the upper left, we have a negative and a positive next to those 2 little terminals with 2 little holes. The top right, white and black wires, the white is positive. So grab your white wire and slide it into that little hole on the positive side. And on the back, I just fold over. You can see there's a positive and negative on the back. It kind of shows you the little plus and minus. So that helps us make sure we're on the correct positive and negative. So white is positive, black is negative. And I just fold over the tips of those wires that we stripped earlier just by pinching that plastic insulation off the wires. There's it kind of focuses. See, the black wire is on the negative, the white wire is on the positive. And for each of the wires, we slide the exposed metal of the wire into that tiny little hole. It's just big enough for these tiny wires. The upper left motor with the blue and red, the blue is negative and the red is positive. And in the back, you see as I flip it over, I just push the wires in and then fold them over away from each other. It's super critical that our wires do not touch. We do not want our wires to touch. They look really close, but they're separated. This is super important also when we solder. So as we push each of the wires through those tiny little holes to the other side of the board, we're going to make sure that we're folding those wires away from each other. Now that I have all 4 motors, wires pushed through to the back of the drone, you'll notice that I have the wires separated, and I kind of push down on them to give them, make sure they're down. Oh, look at that. I missed that black wire, so I'm going ahead and I'm fixing that. Again, I leave all these parts in so you can see that sometimes you start it one way, but then it doesn't hold. by folding them over, the wires should hold. The trick with soldering is to have all the wires prepped. So you can just go ahead and solder all of those 8 connections. So it's 4 motors and 2 wires each. So grab your solder and grab some rosin, your soldering iron, and get it up to temperature. What I find to be the most effective on these little wires is to apply rosin directly to the wire, the motor wire. So what I end up doing is taking like a skewer or a toothpick or anything and just putting the rosin, that sort of yellow stuff, directly on. First I try it just on the solder, and I struggle with it a little bit because I have the solder and the rosin together. Some solder has a rosin core, and for this application that might work. You should try it if that's what you have. But you see I'm kind of struggling. That little bead of solder is not adhering to that little silver tab there. Now I'm looking at it and I'm thinking that might be touching, and if I solder it and the solder touches the 2 terminals or those 2 silver pads where the wires are coming through, then we're going to have a problem. That motor will be short-circuited and it will not work, and it potentially could do some damage to the drone itself because it's going to try and apply power and it's not going to work. That one's okay. I did a little bit better, but now all of a sudden you see I'm messing up because I'm putting the soldering iron in the middle, and look at that. It just connected it. So I'm trying to fix it, but I'm not fixing it. I'm going to fix it later in the video. See that? I'm just like spreading it out. Now that's fully short-circuited, and that's what you do not want. You do not want it to look like that. So let's try it again. And this time I grab that skewer and do a little bit of that rosin paste directly onto those wires. What the rosin does is it creates an environment for the solder to just cling to the wires. So you notice I touched the solder to the soldering iron. So the soldering iron actually has a little sort of bit of the solder, and then that rosin really kind of like sucks in the solder onto the wire. I know you can't see it here, but I'm doing the same thing. I'm applying a little bit of solder onto the soldering iron. You'll see it. So that one I put maybe too much solder, but we'll find out if it works. One thing about soldering is it's a little bit of trial and error. You have to try it and see how it works. There's a tool you can use that's like a little piece of metal fabric that can sort of wick away solder. So if you have too much, you can wick it away. In this case, I'm just now, here's the 3rd motor I'm trying, and I think I'm just now getting the hang of it. I applied rosin to the wire first, solder to the soldering iron, and then I touch the soldering iron, the hot soldering iron, to the wire. And this time I felt like I needed a little bit more solder. I don't see it moving. You don't want to hold it there for too long because you can heat up the circuit board. So it really should be a little bit quick. See, I take it off. I'm like, okay, I need a little more solder. It should be warm already. Just sort of touching it. Now I got to get a little closer to that little tab. And then all of a sudden, it works. So it's a trial and error thing. And that's not a terrible soldering job there, because it's going to work. And in the end, what we want to do with this is make sure that our motors work. So here we go, fourth motor. Let's see if I do it better on the fourth one. So rosin paste on the wire. You can kind of see as it heats up, it turns kind of liquidy. And then I put enough solder on the soldering iron. See that? There's more solder in the soldering iron. I twist the drone around because I'm right-handed, so I have a good angle. And then I'm applying it, and look at that. Boom. Much better. Fourth motor's the charm for me. But look at that. Still a problem with that first motor. So what am I going to do? I'm going to warm it up, and then I'm going to sort of get some of that solder onto my soldering iron. And then I'm going to clean the tip of the soldering iron, and I'm going to continue to clean the tip and try and remove some more of it. I tried with a skewer. I didn't have my little metal wicking fabric, so I tried that. That didn't really do it. And it's okay. Trial and error, right? Trial and error. So what I ended up doing was cleaning off the soldering iron and then collecting a little bit more solder from that joint that was short-circuited. In the end, you just got to make sure that they're not touching. There it is. That's the bad one that I've fixed. So a little bit of patience, and you'll get it. Okay, up next is to install the propellers. These propellers on this particular kit, which might be like your kit, this is the first kit I've had to do this to, but these propellers have a hole that's just a little too small to squeeze onto the shaft of the motor. So I took a push pin and I tried opening up the hole, and I'm still struggling. You see I'm kind of like shaking and pushing. It's still a struggle. And this is really what building your own drone is all about. You're really trying to come up with a solution for a problem that maybe should be there or maybe not, but it's there. So you get to solve this problem. I'll have a diagram of which way the propellers are oriented. You see I've started on the back left one, and that motor is going to spin counterclockwise. So you have to make sure that the propellers will lift the drone by spinning the appropriate direction. So now I'm working even harder with the push pin, and watch this. I push the propeller on and it fits perfect. So I realize I need to push my push pin in even more, and I hold the propeller flat on my table and I'm pushing it straight down, and I'm opening up the hole in the propeller to fit the motor shaft. So the lower right motor is going to spin clockwise. The lower left motor is going to spin counterclockwise. So I'm trying to match the propellers. So it's that lower right one. So that's going to go just like the motors in an X pattern. So it goes across to the top left. And that's also going to spin clockwise, the top left motor. So here I am sort of opening the hole a little bit more. The push pin is just a perfect size. And then I just push it down. Boop. And you notice my left hand is supporting the bottom of the motor. This is important. Just like when we were pushing the motor into the arms of the drone, we're supporting it. We're not just pushing it down because it's likely to break. Something will break. Either the wires will come out of the bottom of the motor, or the arm of the drone could snap. So you got to take your time and try things out. So I'm pushing this one on, and it's tight, but it's tighter than the other ones, and I'm careful to not wiggle it too much. See, that wasn't on enough, so I got to try it again with my push pin. I'm pushing down with the push pin pretty hard. So your drone will be different, and it depends on how the propeller is fit on the motors in your kit. So that's the top right motor, and that's going to spin counterclockwise, just like the bottom left motor. See, this one's giving me a hard time, but it goes on. I'm kind of lifting by the propeller to make sure that it will work. Notice this. So the bottom left spins counterclockwise, bottom right spins clockwise. And the top motors, the top left spins clockwise, top right spins counterclockwise. So it's like an X pattern. Okay, up next we're going to put the propeller guards on the drone. These propeller guards are very thin and can break pretty easily, but they still function even if the little support is broken. So I'm just removing them out of the package and getting them ready. Now this is when we wanted to make sure we didn't have the motor pushed down too far, and you'll see why here. As the part of the guard, it sort of pinches on, kind of clips onto the motor body. If your motors are too far down into the arm of the drone, then the propellers will hit the guard. So I kind of just sort of, again, supporting the opposite side as I'm pushing. So I push that guard on. Okay, so we have all 4 guards on the motors, protecting those propellers. This is really important because flying these little drones takes some practice, and you don't want to bust the propellers the first time you fly it. Here we have the battery and this additional piece in the lower right that potentially can hold the battery. So to use that, you have to have some pins that will go through. Basically some metal wire pins that can go through. I have never used that to attach the battery, but you'll notice that the wire off the drone is pretty long, and when we connect the drone, we need it to be fairly secure. So my preference is to use a rubber band. So what I'm going to do is put the battery right on top, and you notice how I have the drone oriented in my left hand, and I really stretch the rubber band around, and I'm careful to not catch the motors, the propeller guards, the arms, or those legs, and I wrap it. There's 3 wraps, and that's just enough. Doesn't need to be super tight, but it needs to not fall off as you fly or potentially crash the drone. Here I'm moving the parts of the rubber band. There's 2 tiny little buttons on the side. I don't want those to be pressed in, so I'm just moving it off those little buttons. Now the long battery wire off the drone, I'm going to go underneath, and then I'm going to use the rubber band to kind of hold it in place. And as soon as you plug in your battery, the drone turns on. You'll see so light turns on, and watch this. 1, 2, 3. Uh-oh. There should be 4 motors spinning. That lower left one didn't spin. So that means there's a problem, and that's okay. So I'm wondering, what did I do wrong and what can I do to fix it? So I unplug the battery. It's a tight squeeze, but I'm careful to hold both sides of the white connector. Unplug the battery. I'm going to look underneath. And I'm just touching things. Oh, look at that. I'm wiggling the wire, and the solder is also wiggling. So that means it's a bad connection or no connection. So I still have my soldering iron out, and it's still hot, and I'm just going to go ahead and touch it and try and fix that one solder joint. Solder cools really quick, so right after I push it down, I'm going to wiggle it again, just like I was wiggling it to find out that it didn't work. And look at that. I wiggled it and it didn't move. So let's plug the battery back in, because this is the best way to check if it's going to work. Plug it in. It goes through a startup sequence. There's a red light, blinking lights. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, that's good news. 2 thumbs up from me, because, you got to try stuff, and it doesn't always work. I think it's time to fly. Notice the blinking lights. We got a light in the front. We got a blinking light in the back. Yours should be similar. There is an app you can install on your phone just for quick testing. It's called ESP Drone. It's in the App Store. Super simple app. You have to connect to the Wi-Fi of the drone. Password is 1234567 8. You'll see it there. ESP Drone with some numbers. Now that we're connected to the drone, Wi-Fi, it's not a Bluetooth drone, it's a Wi-Fi drone. I'm going to turn yaw off, and on the left side of the screen, just put your thumbs on there and just barely move your thumbs up, and you'll start seeing the motors turn. So I'm just testing. Are the motors spinning? Am I ready to try this out? Before you fly it, you're going to want to go to a nice open space indoors. Here I am. I'm connected to the drone, and I'm in a corner of our office. It's a pretty small corner, and it's tricky to fly over here, but I'm going to use my left thumb and start to take off, and my right thumb is going to move it around left and right. It's a little bit of finesse. Oh, not very good. That's okay. Try again. Here we go. All right, so try it again. Sometimes if you crash it, the drone will disconnect. And so you have to disconnect the battery and reconnect the battery for it to kind of restart. Okay, here we go. All right. It's a third, fourth flight, and I'm hovering a bit. Oh, there it goes up. Oh, it goes up. It hits the ceiling, and then I'm like, oh no, what's going to happen? And I crash it. So here, now you can see I'm flying it around in the corner of the office, and I'm just using the ESP Drone app. I am very carefully using my thumbs on the screen of the app of my phone, and I'm just barely making small adjustments. Really just learning to finesse or to handle it. And look at that, I landed on the table.